All right, guys, so welcome back to the Purpose Fitness Times Nutrition podcast. Today, as we enter the new year of 2023, we're joined with a very special guest, and I'd like to introduce Corey.
G'day, mate. How are you?
Good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm happy to be here.
Nice and comfy?
Yeah, bro.
Welcome to the couch, mate.
Thank you. Couch sessions are on.
That's it. So obviously, it's a pleasure to have you on. And obviously, we wanted to feature you for the start of the year due to your presence in the game, especially when it comes to males and also, personal development. The reason I want you on for today is to talk about primarily setting up the goals, getting the mindset prepared, and obviously entering the new year. So before we get into all that, do you want to sort of give everyone a bit of a background on you, what's led to where you are today, and obviously, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So essentially, I'm Corey Boutwell. I run a community called the Set the Standard Community and essentially coach people to identify their limiting beliefs and absolutely smash them so that they get huge success in whatever areas they are. Most people that we work with is business owners and entrepreneurs. We've seen people do things like go from 30K months to 300K months, like within 3 months. People go from 5K months to 50K months. We have multiple people quit their jobs all the time and start chasing their dreams lives and kicking ass. And then people show up as better, lovers and leaders in their communities all the time. And we're just completely obsessed with making that happen. And it's an absolute breeze, an absolute blast. And we have like the best fun ever doing it. And, the main pillars that we work in is body, mind, business, and relationships. So, yeah, it's the best. We've got like 100 people in the community, which is wild. We consistently get up to about 120, 130, then I kick a whole bunch of people out. They're not there. But yeah, at the moment, we're getting like this real sort of tight community where as soon as one person comes in, they're on calls with people they haven't met before. People are reaching out to them. They're asking them what their goals are. They're challenging them. They're raising them up. And I had like some one-on-one clients come in and they're like, we wouldn't start, let's say 4 weeks. They've come in and they're like, well, I've completely transformed my mindset with money. I'm more confident than I've ever been in my entire life. And now I've got on the call too. That literally happened today. So that was really cool. I'm like, wow, this community, like without me even being there, is working. So it's been super fantastic to see that happen. And I'm super proud and privileged to just be like hosting it and just being a part of it. I love being in it. Like, everyone in there helps me as well. So
yeah, awesome. It's obviously I contacted you a while back to actually look at doing something with us back in 2022.
Yeah.
And that was sort of when you were just really starting to scale.
Yeah.
And obviously it's been only a couple of months since, and you've scaled quite dramatically. So that's exactly what you want, because obviously we want people that are not only just doing the talk but delivering. So you said that obviously you're not there, and it's obviously great to see this community come together and continue to grow. So do you want to give us a bit of information on sort of how that community is working? Is it like a Facebook group, or is it like a private sort of like application that you're doing? How's that community working?
Yeah, so I like Sam Oven's school group, and I use it's a platform called School. But the best thing about it is the community is creating a culture, because you've got all of these different rules and things of how you sort of want your culture to be and how everyone is and how they show up. And we have this culture where we just say it's cools. And everyone in the community, like without me, I was telling you beforehand. We were talking beforehand. I was like, okay, so without me being in the course, there's probably 30 phone calls that happen, 20 to 30 phone calls that happen without me being there. In terms of people are just interacting with each other in a group call. There's so many different specific group chats. We organize like pods for people who, sort of come in, and because I've talked to everyone, I know who they are and their personality types. I'm like, you three should create your own pod, or 4, let's go in there and start creating something. But yeah, everyone is, as soon as they come in the community, they're talking to a community leader. They're getting indulged with the culture straight away. They're seeing the results. Sometimes it's a bit intimidating, because you're seeing in there people have been in the community for close to a year and they're completely different, doing these crazy things. And then you're coming in, you're like the first person, and I'm part of communities too, so I know what it's like. You're coming in and like, holy shit, like all these people with these things, this big pressure, big expectations. And then you talk to someone, and then they tell you their story of when they were first there, and they completely relate to you, and they're like, come on, man. Like, you got this. Where are you at? Let's show up. Let's rock up. Let's do these things that we need to do. And it's just so fantastic. So the best thing about the community that we've got is specifically the culture and the people that are in there. And everyone is just obsessed with self-improvement in all areas, no matter what it is. So that's sort of like the vibe we attract with the community, how it works. And I'm super proud of it.
Yeah, so you should win.
Yeah, thank you.
And obviously, we only watch it. Like, I'm not in the community, so I only watch it from the social media side. It's quite impressive, and obviously something that's very big and pushes that into all of our clientele and all of our business models. It's a very attractive sort of community to be a part of.
Yeah, it is, and just like the whole support there, it's like everyone's got your back, and it's pretty crazy. Like as a man, speaking like directly to men, is we've been part of tribes and cultures and communities since the beginning of time. You look at some of the most exciting times of your life could be in a sporting community. It could be in some sort of creativity community, entrepreneur community, whatever it is. And that's some of the best fun ever. And when you're in, a community that's got you back for you crushing goals, it's pretty wild.
Yeah.
Like it's pretty wild.
Yeah.
And you have to level up. You know what I mean? Like you have to.
Yeah, you just got other people around you like just doing better.
Yeah, and you say, I want to do this. And they're like, why haven't you done it yet?
Yeah.
Like, shit. And then we actually go down the rabbit hole of all the mindset stuff or figuring it out. And they're like, all right, let's make a shift. Let's do something.
Yeah.
What's like the one little step that you can take that's going to get you closer? Let's focus on that.
Yeah, and that's what you said, that little shift.
Yeah.
And that's obviously what we want to cover today is tap into those shifts that we need to be applying for 2023.
Oh, yeah.
But one thing I really want to touch on is, obviously before we move into those New Year structures and routines and priorities is the best thing about what you do is you work with males. Males are one of the hardest species to bond, emotionally connect. Do you want to share your enlightenment? Like,
challenge fucking accepted, straight up. Challenge accepted. All the guys out there that think they can't be emotionally intelligent or think it's soft or whatever it is, like I'm going to bring you in and goddamn bring you down, raise you up and have you crush your goddamn goals by leveling yourself up and increasing your, not emotional intelligence, but also leadership intelligence. So it's challenge accepted for me. It's like bring it on. If I can do it and people in my community can do it and we can bring people together and we can erase those goddamn egos of the hero identity that all men have of, I can do it my goddamn self. I'm stressed out, everything's not working, and my girl left me, and my business isn't working, and all that crap that happens all the time. It's like, bro, we'll get you there. Like, get over that quickly, because the guys who are leveling up and doing it together and using each other, like, one thing that leveled up in 2022 was my money mindset around, like, your friends and investing in your friends and creating opportunities with people that you greatly trust financially and using each other to scale each other up. That's what the wealthy people have done since the history of time and why they've all remained wealthy, because they help each other. It's like, well, why don't we all goddamn help each other? When you understand that you can do that, when someone's in a hole or whatever this is, it doesn't have to be financial, like, I'll help you out, here, have a loan. Like some people can, for sure. But it might just be a few mindset tips. It might just be like, here's an opportunity, I'll connect you with this person. Talk to them. Something will change.
Yeah.
Boom.
Even just a little share and a comment on a post, right?
Dude, one person, little share, like connecting one person with one conversation, change your life.
Yeah.
I had it with someone in our community. It was so funny. He was just like, he had these huge goals. He wanted to start his own landscaping company, and he was working for another business, and he was a project manager in there. He was up doing some of the top stuff, and he'd been working crazy hour days to start his landscaping company. And we were talking, and what was really clear to me, I was like, well, the one person that you got to talk to, man, have a conversation with is your boss. He's like, yeah, he's good. He's like a mentor to me. He's got these things. I'd love to, learn from him. There's work that we could probably get from them. So I'm like, all right, let's just learn how to do a performance conversation. He's the most important person for you in your life right now, because you could get everything that you wanted from this person. Let's see how we go. So we went through the performance conversation techniques, taking him out somewhere where it's nice, having a coffee with him in lunch. So there's no distractions from the office. He's not in a rush. You said the nice things. You've clarified what and why, so he's not stressed out and he's focusing on you. And then you're helping him understand how much you love the business and how much you want to succeed and motivated, and how you can actually help him. So he's like, feeling a bit of like, I care for this person. And he went through and had the conversation. He left the conversation with allowed his work hours to get decreased by 1 day a week, and then in a few weeks decreased by 2 days a week, and then eventually until he finishes. His boss decided to mentor him, because he asked him to mentor him, which is really cool. And he asked to have all of his work to do the landscaping work that he could subcontract off him, and he said yes.
Wow. Power of one conversation.
Yeah, dude. It was one conversation. Sometimes it's hard to see that.
Yeah,
right? Until well, it depends, because sometimes you may not believe it, or you don't have the self-worth there, or someone might have, yeah, exactly. Someone might have point you in the right direction. And that's the power of, networking and talking and having winners in your circle. Crazy. thanks for asking that question. It motivates me, and I love that story. Shout out to Alex, you're a stud, by the way.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. So yeah, just the power of one conversation to change the whole world. And that's what pays dividends, to have either a coach, mentor, or a community around you that actually pushes you into the potential.
Oh, 100%. I think what's really beneficial is making friends and having professional friendships. Because a lot of guys come in and think like, oh, but I don't want to leave my friends. Like, I have good quality friends, right? Awesome. Have friends, but like, oh, but they don't have the same goals as me. They're not as inspiring as I. They don't believe that. No, they're like, I believe I can do anything, but they don't believe they can do anything. They're not motivated to do it. So it's like, that's cool. Keep your friends. They're going to serve you for like love purposes.
Yeah, and that fun outside.
Yeah, but get some professional friends as well. And that's where you go to get it, because your professional friends will hold you to a higher standard, because they'll end up learning about you more than you know about you. And then the second you're down, or the second you're not on the ball, or the second you're, maybe I'm questioning this, and this. Boom. They're onto the case. No, that's what the best version of you would do. Do that.
Yeah, they're calling you out on your shit.
Yeah. Well, they're calling you forward, really. They're raising you up. And you can just like get that immediately, by getting into the mindset of, the people that I invest in, and relationships is the greatest currency ever for me. Like Jim Rohn, you're the average of the 5 people around you. Everyone knows that quote.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, what does the work, I love the question, what does the work look like to get those 5 people around you? It's like, find a community or anything of people that you actually would love to be around, or know that they're winning. Let's say you love property. It's like, pay to get into the elite property community, even if it empties your pockets. Even if it empties your pockets, because you're committed to be around those people, and they'll respect that. You're like, hey, I emptied all my money to be a part of this community. They're like, whoa, what a stud. Let us teach you.
It shows investment.
Yeah. It's so cool. So I love that. Super passionate about it.
There you go. So you touched on, like, obviously, figuring out and finding your way. I think that's something that a lot of people struggle to, is actually find their way into those kind of communities. So, obviously you spoke about, investing, or like, paying your way into those communities. I think that, like, even me personally, that's what I'm doing. I work with big people, work with, multimillionaires, even international partners, etc., like that.
How did you get into those communities? How did you get some international partners and get involved in some of them?
Just opening up conversation.
How so? On IG? Like, what was it?
Yeah, so I guess, just networking, going to business award nights, and then following up with those people on, social media, even sending emails, offering dinners, lunches, or even just showing appreciation for their work, congratulating them, never asked for anything back. That was probably the big things to open up the doors, or like you said, being introduced and then networking through that pathway. In terms of international partners, I guess it came from creating credibility to the point where I was recognized as a force, and they wanted to associate with that. So, but I guess probably coming back to you, in my opinion, when we were doing that and also looking at new ventures, the big thing and the big limiting thing when it comes to these kind of things is trust.
Oh, yeah.
So we know there's a lot of cowboys in a lot of industries. So for people who aren't necessarily, switched on or intelligent in the sense of, they trust too easily without knowing, the rules, what would be your advice to, get into these communities without, being burnt or the warning signs?
Well, I would say the first thing is like trust yourself, and like develop like a strong skill of trust yourself. Because if you have the awareness within inside yourself and focus on it, you know what I mean? Set the intention and learn to like really, really trust yourself. Like, for example, if you just had someone, let's say they're on a normal salary and they're doing like $100,000, $70,000 to $100,000 a year. Then we give them $1 million and say, you can invest this in whatever. Probably shit the pants. You know what I mean? They don't trust themselves with what they're going to do. They're going to have to like find someone else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Crazy. Same thing. You could say to someone who is like an amateur in the gym, and then 4 months later, they've set the goal to, compete in a bodybuilding show. Do they know what it really takes? I mean, would they trust themselves, when they get on stage, before they get on stage? The majority of people, if they set the intention and they're a beginner, would probably bail, because they're like, oh, this is intense. There's a lot of work that comes into here. So I think the first thing is getting a really good sort of GPS of trusting yourself, which comes with learning discipline and learning integrity. So getting really good at doing the things that you say you're going to do. And when you don't do those things, it's call yourself up on it and have other people who are comfortable to call you out on it too. So then it's like, a little bit embarrassing. You got to feel that pain or that shame. It's like, I wasn't as good as what I should have been. Because I think learning that skill and having a good identity of that and how that comes up within you is going to help you see it in other people. Because every time you slip up, you start seeing other people. Like I noticed it happened with me. Like it took me one of the biggest things I ever learned. I did this exercise where I messaged the 5 closest people around me. I actually did like 8, but I encouraged 5 because I was just on the flow. So messaged them, asked them what my 5 key strengths and weaknesses are. And then I analyzed all the weaknesses and sat down with my partner and just said, all right, let's do a whiteboard because I want to figure this shit out. And that's like one thing that we teach. We teach this thing now, it's exercise, because we've done it with like multiple people now. And it's just like this crazy, simple program, but doing the work is actually doing it and then following up and seeing it through and learning the lessons. And what I realized was one of the things that stuck out to it that happened in a lot of the weaknesses was you see so much good in everyone else, Corey, that you forget to see the bad. Right? And I was like, oh, shit.
That's strong, man. Right?
And I was like, shit. And that come up with like in a few different things. And I was like, well, why is that? And it all come out of a fear of feeling guilty, because I've made to feel guilty my whole life, where I've been, because I grew up singing, dancing and acting, and I excelled through that really quickly. As a kid, I was quite talented with sports. So, and I'd hang around, like I'd go to a family event and then I'd throw a rock at like a tree or something and miss and hit someone's car. And then all the parents would fucking just go nuts at me. And then they'd tell my parents and I'd feel so guilty about it. I was like, oh my God. Yeah. Or I would win a role in an acting thing and everyone else would miss out. And then I'd feel guilty because I actually got the role for whatever it is. And it's sort of made to feel shame. So it's like for my whole life. And then I've sort of called those experiences on myself and have this fear of feeling guilty. So I would forgive other people immediately so they didn't have to feel guilty about stuffing up. But I would also, that would give me the excuse to slip up on my boundaries a little bit. So they would forgive me immediately in case I slipped up, in case I did something. I was like, I got to tighten up these goddamn boundaries. Because that fear of feeling guilty from that thing of noticing, oh God, what was it going to do? Mental blank there. But whatever it was that I was talking about before in terms of what I found out, that feeling of feeling guilty is like something that sort of holds me back a little bit for owning who I was. God damn it. And then once I figured that out and understood it, I was like, well, the next shift for me looks like this. I leant straight in. I'm not going to feel guilty for it. Understanding every time that guilt comes up, it's just an opportunity for me to lean in. Doesn't matter if I make other people feel guilty. It doesn't matter if I feel guilty for whatever my goals are. Like it does matter that the skill there is being able to process it and decide to go through anyway. Allow myself feel guilty. That's completely fine. All right, this is an opportunity for me to lean in. Let's go and reflect on it. You did good. You were safe. You overcome it. And when you're thinking like that, you're actually integrating you overcoming guilt rather than not. This happens in all different areas. It's not just guilt. Like for a lot of people, it's a fear of feeling lonely, fear of embarrassment, fear of shame.
Huge, yeah.
Yep. Fear of not feeling good enough is huge.
Yep.
Fear of not being validated.
Yep.
Come up with a lot of decisions. So just to
comes inside.
Yeah, exactly. So just coming back to the whole trust thing of being integral and understanding yourself within those things helps you see it within other people. Immediately, as soon as I saw that, I could see when other people weren't aligned with when they felt guilty. I looked at my dad and I was like, oh my God, you're so riddled with guilt, bro. Like, then
now I understand why I've got it.
Yeah, exactly. And then like me and my dad's wife would pain him out. Like he stuffed up something in the kitchen, whatever it was. Like I think he threw out potatoes. I was like, I held one of potatoes. He was like, we're like, oh my God, as if you threw out the potatoes. You should feel so bad. And he was like, fuck your potatoes, guys. He got like a little bit upset about it, but I'm like teasing him, like, stop feeling guilty. And we were like, oh, we're the worst for that. So it was interesting understanding that, because then you see sort of the boundaries in other people and where they're at and where they could be better. And it's like, okay, well, if someone has overcome that, like I've overcome it, and you know they're disciplined, they're integral. A lot of people that I like to that motivate me, that I like to work with, is someone that I can trust, is if they've got a good physique. And it's just a thing on myself that I have in terms of like, well, I've got a good physique. But that's just not in terms of, well, why do I have a good physique as a natural athlete? I'm disciplined. I show up every single morning, I train. I hardly ever miss my meals. I go to bed on time. So all of those things are in order. I'm like, man, if someone can do that for a long period of time and they've got a strong physique, it doesn't have to be in their muscles. It depends on endurance training, whatever it is. Any person who is like fitness and looks athletic, I'm like, that's one wicked tick that I can give to that person.
It carries a very, very strong message and characteristics with that.
Big time.
Because it's not easy.
It's not easy, man. It's a whole lifestyle, right? So
yeah.
So I really like that. That's one thing, understanding boundaries and where they're at, what they do, who they are.
Yeah, so I quite like that, looking internal. And you're quite right. Like, when you bring that up, I was like, shit. It's a realization. It's quite true, because since doing a lot of self-development in myself, I now identify those in other people.
Yeah.
So you're 100% right. So going back to sort of, if you're looking at engaging in those kind of groups or becoming a part of the community, and you've got that trust issue about, can you trust these people? To kick off 2023, the first thing we want to be doing is taking criticism in and looking at ourselves.
Oh yeah, big time.
Because then that will then allow our skill set to then understand other people.
All big time. But sometimes you got to take that leap of faith and, taste test communities as well. Like, and I think like ours is just using mine as an example, because you get on a phone call with someone straight away and they're asking questions about you. And immediately you're like, holy shit, got to learn all these things about myself. Like, as soon as you come in, you're like, I don't know. Like, we should probably figure them out. We want to trust you. We'd love to trust you.
Yeah, it's not all about them.
Yeah, you got to do the work though.
Yeah, if they're asking about you, they show a bit more investment.
Yeah.
They keep talking about themselves. They're not into you.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah.
Which is really cool.
So obviously that's rolling into our conversation of now setting up as individuals for the new year. Now, looking internal, looking at what we want to achieve. You even said before we started this podcast that you even sat down and done your goals, set up your standards, reassessed, made sure that you're gonna dominate this year.
Yeah,
I have no doubt about.
Thank you.
So obviously, kicking off from looking at communities and getting into people and surrounding yourself with the right people. Yeah. I think that's a very big focus a lot of people need to do for this year. But like I kind of said, is look at sort of more internal criticisms, take on, people that are close to you that you can trust their judgment on your strengths and weaknesses. I like what you did was message people. Too many people don't actually give the truth. They'll avoid the message. I've done that myself. They don't really like to give the honest opinions.
Yeah.
It's like, it's okay, we won't get butt hot. It's all right. I guess coming back to you is, for people that are listening to this, I think we've covered a fair bit about the communities and stuff like that, and excelling as a group this year. In terms of goal setting, I know myself as a coach, towards the end of last year, there's a lot of headspaces that were turning off, checking out, struggling with financial pressures of families, some people don't get on with families, all of that. And I know now entering the new year, people like us, we're ready. We've got the priorities, we've got our systems that work for us, and we've got those, ready to dominate the year. For the people that don't have those skill sets or don't have those systems, what systems would you advise or recommend or, to help them set their head up for the right?
Yeah, there's a lot that I can speak to this. The main thing that I think is like extremely important is, again, it's just back to the relationship thing, is just like the world at the moment is so thirsty for connection. And even though we're so connected on social media, depending on what you're actually doing, connection is such an important, vital role, because at the moment, humans are still the ones that are making the decisions. So as I mentioned with the conversations beforehand, who you're connected with and feeling that sense of connection makes you feel so good. That should definitely be a priority of focused. When it comes to goal setting, so coming into this, I think one of the most important things to sort of understand with goal setting is taking the pressure off of, it doesn't matter if you set your goals 2 months ago or you haven't set any now. It's like the perfect time to set your goals is when you're clear on your vision and your purpose. Without vision and purpose, there's sort of like, why would you even set a goal? There's no grander thing to help understand that. And I've been teaching this a lot recently. So my purpose, for example, is to challenge and set the standard for all inspiring leaders. I'm going to use myself as an example here, guys, so you can listen and sort of understand this. How would I apply this to myself? So that's what my purpose is. For me, that means a lot. It might not sound a lot to you guys, but for me, that every time I say it, hits me in the chest. Ooh, I worked hard to get that one sentence, hard on that. I've done two courses on purpose, and I've done 2 masterclasses on goal setting for the year. So this is definitely one of the most important things. I learned from my mentor. It was so funny because I was learning about goal setting. I was like, what's a really good way of goal setting? Because I know vision and purpose first. Setting goals is like systems. Definitely most priority. He was like, well, anyone would just read the 12-week year, really, if like that'd be the best thing. And all the people in the community were like, yep, that was a really good book. So I was like, cool, I'm going to do a masterclass on it. So I read the whole book and then created the masterclass on the book, but with my spin on the things. And they talk about it in the book as well. You need to know your purpose first. So that's my purpose, right? I know what that means. To challenge and set the standard for all inspiring leaders. What does that look like? So that's the vision. That comes next. So the vision for me looks like people that have come into my community as a global leader, wherever it is, whatever industry, whatever they're coming is, they're like, holy shit, look at this person who's absolutely crushing it, and they're part of the Set the Standard community. I want to see people like that all around the world. And then I'd love for the community to be hard to get into. You know what I mean? Like real unique. And just have people just that are absolute weapons. And it's happening. Like it's literally some of the people that the transformation we have, like it's starting to happen. So it's really cool seeing that. So that's my vision, right? Can't wait to see it happen. So now, for me, when I do my goal setting, I actually have removed annualized thinking. So for me, it's like, screw the yearly goal. It's too big. If you're thinking of something like whatever your huge yearly goal is, and you're attached to that, you're like, oh, well, I could start in November. I could start that. I've got all year to achieve that goal. Cool. Your annual goal also restricts you and makes you a victim to just that one goal. What if it changes and you need to pivot? What if a huge opportunity comes in and you can't see it because you're blinded by your goal? That's why knowing your vision and your mission and your purpose and your vision is so important. Because what's the quickest way I'm going to get there? And the most powerful way I'm going to get there. Same thing, breaking things down into quarterly increments. Okay, I've got this quarterly. Quarterly goals look like this. What if I don't hit them? Now I'm also regimented by these quarterly goals. What if something comes up and something comes up and completely damages everything that you've done? A roadblock comes in and hit. Now I'm back on that quarterly goal. Now I'm back on the next quarterly goal. And back and oh no, I'm not going to hit my annual goal. And you're worrying about all those things. It's a bit of risk management there. So I was like, well, what do I do about those things? How do I approach this? So I really love the book, The 12-Week Year, and talking about this. And that is, know your vision, your purpose, because if you haven't got that, like, you're not going anywhere. The next is you have to set up a plan, right? And the plan shouldn't be annualized, but without a plan, your vision and your purpose is just a pipe dream. Like, it's not going to happen. Without something to measure it or understand it, you don't know what's working every single day, and you're going to end up in the situation where it's like, oh my God, I had this bell today and this bell today, and these 3 days sucked, but then I had one good day, and you're just back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And then there needs to be intentional time. So where you're actually spending time weekly that you're measuring specifically on just planning. Planning is not wasting time. That's sharpening an axe, and when you cut the tree, it falls down immediately. Friesma, one of my friends, is a great example. Started Gym Bros, right? Was like striving for the longest time of his life to make it and make success. And then within 3 months, like generated a couple $1 million. Like crazy. Within that couple months period. But he was sharpening that sword, man, for weeks beforehand, like for months beforehand, and then boom, cut the tree. Fantastic. Great example of it, right?
NFTs popped.
Popped, man. So cool, right? It's so cool. Like, I'm so proud that he's a friend of mine. And so essentially, through the year, it's like, okay, what does that look like? Well, let's just break things down and just get the most current goals for you, most specific goals for you that are going to get you to your vision as quickly as possible that you can achieve in 12 weeks. And just focus on those 12 weeks. And then at the end of the 12 weeks, think about your goals, take some time away, celebrate them, then plan for the next one. It makes sense. Any bodybuilding competition, 16 to 12 weeks. The last 12 weeks, you're going hard. You think about AFL, whatever it is, NFL, before they start doing the knockouts in the teams. It's like, that's a 3-month period. People start getting knocked out. It's like, that's when you got to be at your peak for 3 months. Any professional team, there's like 3 months before the grand final, and you're going to be on the goddamn ball. So create that for yourself. Here's the key. Don't measure your results or your goals. Because if you're attached to your results and your goals, you're going to be super disappointed if you don't hit them. So what do? Measure execution. Because it's the habits that you're doing today and the things that you're executing on today and this week that are going to get you there. And when you start looking at those things and you can see them on your plan that you've planned for the 12 weeks, it's the same. Every good bodybuilder has got a plan. Every good person who's, the AFL teams, they've got plans for the 12 weeks. This is how we're going to win the grand final. They've got a plan. So create a goddamn plan just for 12 weeks. Goals and your strategies and how you're going to measure it. But what we need to do is measure execution. Like, for example, one of my goals would be, it's podcasting and it's creating YouTube channels and it's sharing like a good message through that. So what do I need to do to hit my vision and like my purpose? 1 podcast a week's pretty good because we make a lot of content from that. We'll make heaps from one of those. We'll get 7 7 posts, we get like 14 posts out of a podcast. You know what I mean? So it's going to last us plenty of time. So if I just create 1 podcast a week and have that intentional time on a Wednesday, cool. I measure my execution. Did I create a podcast this week? Yes or no? Now, out of my weekly, I get a score 1 for 1. And something else could be, for example, and I'm using myself as an example. It's like, okay, I have to post every single day. So measure my execution. Did I post every single day? Yes. A bad measure, so that's good. Did I post every day? A bad measure would be, for example, 1 post got me 3 leads or something like that. Or I want to have like a goal of I made $100,000 this month or whatever it may be. If it's a goal like that, that's not execution. That's a goal. But if you said, okay, what's going to get me to that cash? And it's like message 1 person every single day. Then you can tick. Did I message everyone every single day? When you're not making your goals and you sort of tally them up, you can give yourself like a percentage out of those. This is real easy. You can give yourself sort of like a little percentage. You can have a look at your tally and you're like, okay, 6 out of 10, I executed on everything. I'm probably going to have to change my goals or my execution a little bit because I'm not executing as best as what I could be. 65 to 75% is like, I'm doing pretty good. I just need more discipline and grit. And then anything over like 8 out of 10 or 85%, you're like, chances are we're probably going to get there. Now, if you look at the 80-20 rule, and if you're executing on 80% of all the stuff and you're like, no, I'm pretty satisfied. Like that was a pretty good week. You best believe that 12-week period that you're giving yourself to go crush it, that you're going to achieve those goals, you best believe you're going to crush them.
Yeah.
That's it.
I like that. Would you consider, so obviously we're looking at people from, the very bottom that have no idea about purpose or as well, you know what I mean? And then we've also got some very high, like, people in your community that, very high leaders or very, very successful entrepreneurs. So obviously I know for myself, we look at obviously we've got a 10-year goal in our development of our companies.
Yep.
So obviously when we're doing that, we have what we call, that's our macro goal. And then obviously we break it down into like 5 and stages and so forth. But then we do come down to quarters. So, we've got massive goals for quarter 1 and quarter 2 of the year already. Quarter 3 and 4 hasn't been written because it depends on quarter 1 and quarter 2. So
love that.
Do you believe, because obviously you said, like, don't set goals and stuff like that for the long term, but do you see the benefit of, having that vision set and then...
You just said the word then, it's a vision, right?
Yeah.
So this is where it comes with personally. It's just that, this is what I'm speaking to is personal development. So every single person that you like work with, what I would encourage them to do is to have like their own vision. That's probably going to be aligned with the vision of the company. So our goal is to have like your goal for along the example, let's say it's impact 10,000 people's lives. That's a vision, baby. Like we want to hit 10,000, we want to impact 10,000 people's lives and change them. That's an awesome goal that we want to have too. And what does that look like? Well, this is the revenue count. This is the employees that are needed to do that. This is these things. Wicked. And you've just done the same thing. You've just done the 12-week year, but done it in 2 quarters instead. We're going to focus on this quarter and this quarter. Leave it. It's a bit different when you're doing like big business goals. I think things need to plan out a little bit more differently because there's a little bit of risk there. But speaking to the individual, it's like if every single person had a 12-week plan and they just smash things for 12 weeks, then they're allowed to have essentially as much time off as they were like allowed to think and come up with their own plans. Like, this is it.
Yeah.
Because it takes pressure off people. I find a lot of people who come into programs and stuff and who do really well, they're always sort of asking, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? What's the next thing? And we got to provide as someone who's a leader. It's like, okay, this is the next thing you need to do. This is the next step. This is the next step. When people do the work to find their vision and purpose, there's the next steps. Then think about your goals, think about your vision, all the things that you want to do. Do the next steps, next steps, next steps. Vision, next step, vision, next step. Now, speaking to the individual, if you don't have a purpose or a vision, find it. What does it look like? Pen to paper, working with a coach or a mentor and spending significant time, could be a long time, could be a short time, depending how long you find it, but dedicated execution, daily or weekly, until you connect with something emotionally that you're like, this is it. This is it. This is my vision, my purpose, and you can feel it right here. And when you say it out loud, it's like, whew, to the point where it's like almost nervous to tell someone your purpose or your vision, and then lean into telling someone. I love this. We have this joke in like our community, and I love it. We come up with the joke that's like, create the scenario where someone asks you what's your purpose, and that's along the conversation. And you talk to somebody like, oh, no, and that's because I know my purpose. And the other person says, well, what's your purpose? And you're like, that's a scary part. Well, this is my purpose. And they're like, you get different reactions. People are like, oh, that's stupid. What's that? Oh, that's amazing. That's the best thing ever. I wonder what my purpose is. And you start having this crazy engaging conversation. And then some of the stories and the conversations that happen out of that challenge, I find like so fantastic. And that's like immediate feedback, which is gold in the modern world, by the way.
Yeah. I think it was Gary V. But he basically said like, same thing about that is, pinpoint it down so you can get it on like a very small back piece of paper. Oh, yeah. And if you can't say it in like one, I think it was like one sentence, then you haven't, got a strong enough focus on your vision. 10 words. Yeah. Is what we try to get people down to. We'll let them off sometimes at 12 if it makes sense. You know what I mean? Like sometimes like, that's not going to make sense in 10 words. But yeah, it's 10 words is the goal. 13 doesn't cut it. Yeah, 13 bro doesn't cut it. Unlike your number. Not allowed that. You're going to get it, 10 words. Yeah, we do it all the time. We get people to create their purpose statements. But sometimes you need a little bit of a look over from it, like yourself. Because we find that most people when they do it, they're like, it's this grand half a page or paragraph. And then we're like, that's sick. That's good that you've got that down. Like put that somewhere for you specifically. But we want you to be able to just rattle it off your tongue like, bam, like that. It creates a little bit of power and it feels good. And every time you feel activated. And anytime you have a questioning why, whatever it is, you think about your purpose again and it puts you in the right position. But purpose comes and goes. There's times when you're living towards your purpose, and you're living it out as best as you can and you've done it for a period of time. And you're like, oh, I don't feel as connected to this. It's like, well, I've got that skill of knowing my purpose. Let's summon a new one. I think it's real powerful. Yeah, indeed. Now, just want to talk on, obviously, goal setting in terms of the 12-week period. Oh, yeah. Now, one of the biggest things I've learned in business is focus. And that's obviously what we're going to plan out in the 12 weeks with these individuals. Yeah, I love that. The biggest thing is, obviously, we're talking to all different people. We've got people that are running, multiple different facets of things from business to personal to whatever. And then we've got people just focusing on themselves as individuals. What's your belief and, advice to people when it comes to, this sort of goal setting in the 12-week period and channeling the focus to multiple different, because obviously in your community you focus on like relationships, career, financing, health and all that kind of stuff. So as an individual, what's your advice in terms of, channeling the focus into either one or into all in that 12-week period? What's priorities? Yep. So we've got a methodology. I'll just, if you like, I'll walk you through it. Yeah. Take 2 seconds and you just sort of figure out where your priorities are at. So we sort of have the thing, the bigger the base, the better it is at the top. So it's like a modern approach to like Maslow's hierarchy, if anyone's understand that. But it's sort of like tipping on its head because it's like, well, that sort of doesn't apply anymore because bottom of Maslow's hierarchy. I'll explain it if you guys don't know anyone that know what this is. I'm going to explain it in a second. But Maslow's hierarchy is like the bottom of the hierarchy is, well, you need to have a roof over your head and the availability to eat food. It's like, well, we're abundant in that. You know what I mean? So it doesn't apply to us. And majority of people do, that we want to work with as someone who's inspiring or wants to make impact or just live a really good life or get out of the mindset. So the first thing, obviously, for understanding is vision and purpose always, because that's the guiding light that's going to get you there. And I think what's really important is also to map out what hell looks like if you don't achieve that goal. And like real dig into, what does it look like if you keep remaining who you are now for the next 10 years? Is it pretty good? Some people, it's like, yeah, it's actually all right, but I'd just be so dissatisfied. Some people, it's like, fuck that. And people who absolutely sorted their stuff out, they're like, I can't wait. So it looks like heaven. So mapping that out, I think, is really important. So the hierarchy looks like this. Essentially, physiological health needs at the bottom, which is mental and physical, because body and mind is the same. The way, if you've got a strong, capable physique, it's a lot likely that you're going to have a strong, capable mind. You have a strong, capable mind, so it looks like you're going to have a healthy physique. So, so it's focus on those things first. What are you doing to serve those and make that, increase the capacity for energy in those as big as possible. Second thing is self-love and confidence. Because when you love yourself, when you really like yourself, you're going to show up as that person. When you go into the room, sometimes you just like see someone who holds themselves and how they act and they talk. You're like, oh, that person is like put together well. It's like that's confidence because they actually like themselves and they're not afraid to show it. We've been growing up in a world where when we're a lot younger, it's don't think and don't act like you're the best because no one will like you. No one likes someone who thinks they're the best. But everyone's trying to be the best at something. Yeah. So you feel guilty for trying to be the best. And then you're like, oh, I'm going to get shunned for this. Fuck that. Learn how to be like,
It is an essential skill to learn how to be proud of yourself in a humble way and celebrate yourself.
Yeah.
So that's the next thing. Self-love and confidence. The third thing on top of that is stress management. The better your physical and mental health, the more you like yourself, the easier it's going to be to deal with stress and actually have the time and abundance to learn with the techniques. Because stress just doesn't come from the fact of like, oh, I'm stressing out for all of these X, Y, Z, X, Y, Z. Stress also comes in the forms of physical training. Stress comes in big business meetings. Stress comes out of things to do with finance, you know what I mean? Whether it's investing or whether it's spending on something. So it's all the stress here. So what's the techniques that you've learned to sort out stress? And when you do have those techniques and you're good at handling stress and you're good at handling your emotions is, well, the networking part comes up. What are the relationships that I most want to have? Intimate, professional, friends. They're probably the main three. Family. So what do those relationships look like? And are they serving you? Are they serving you to your greatest capabilities? If they're not, you need to upgrade some of your friends. There's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to say goodbye to anyone, but work on those and become someone who's valuable as a friend. You've got the skills now. If your mind and your body sorted out, you've got elite level self-confidence and you can deal with stresses, you're going to be someone that people want to be around. Now you can take advantage of this. Reach out. Do good stuff. The next one is once you are really good at relationships, I think relationships are most important because we see each other, we mirror versions of ourselves, is asking yourself the question, do I receive the finance to live my most greatest life right now? Then map that out. For some people, they're like, yeah, sick. Other people, it's like, well, if I had an extra 20K, I'd probably do this, this, and this. It'd be better. If I had an extra million, these are some of the things that I'd be doing. I'd be investing here and doing this. A lot of people, it's a lot more money than what they'd think, usually. Yeah. Because people would love to do great things and be acknowledged for it. But what is that finance? You ask yourself that question and realistically, like, put it down. And then if you don't have it, welcome to the next stage of the hero journey, guys. You have to go out and go make some damn more money. Entrepreneur's journey.
We're back to the goal setting again.
Yeah, we're back to exactly right. Oh shit, better set some goals. So you get to ask yourself that question, which is a beautiful question. The next thing on top of that is, well, what hierarchy am I climbing to get there? We all got to climb a hierarchy. What business niche, career, whatever it is, fitness, health, relationships, business. What's the hierarchy you're climbing? Who's the people at the top? Can you network with them? Can you climb that hierarchy? What's the next step on the hierarchy to get there? Start climbing that. And then the next stage on top of that, which is like the return phase of the hero's journey, is impact. Give back.
Strong.
The stronger the base, the quicker you get to the top.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Same thing. Like we teach it with our clients as well. Like when it comes to building a physique.
Yeah.
You can't build a great physique on a shit foundation.
Yeah, exactly right.
You've got to have the basics of the foundation executed and built before we can even start building the dream body.
Yeah, reps. But just mapping out that own hierarchy for yourself and where are you? Like something, I got a great mental health, this is wicked. But what you find out where it comes in there is what's going to be the most priority. You know, when you ask about relations, business, mindset, health, whatever it is, where would you want to focus? Is a methodology like that is a beautiful thing to understand so that you can go, this is my most highest priority. And it could be a lot of people in their life would be like, well, relationships right now is my highest priority, but I am too damn stressed out to focus on them. Well, the relationships isn't your high priority then, bro. It's stress. So focus on that, learn some new techniques. A lot of the stress stuff is like, it's a lot of meditation or understanding in your own way of how you're going to deal with stress. It's either going to be like get an Oura ring, do some meditation, like whatever it is, and focus on that, be held accountable, find some people also working on that, overcome, learn the skills, the techniques, invest into it. Awesome. Once you've already overcome that, it could be like a course for something, it costs you $1,000. You go, you do that, you implement the things if you've got the discipline to do so. And then, cool, now you can work on the relationships things. Go to the networking events like you did. Talk to the people, comment to the stuff.
Yeah. I think sort of summarizing sort of all that, the biggest thing is just looking internal.
Yeah, it's always internal, man. Yeah. But there's just 1,000 different ways of looking at it, and it's sticking to one that's going to work for you. Yeah.
I typically find, me personally, is like looking internal, and then say, for example, especially in business, and you probably would understand that as well, is, you know, you keep going, and then sometimes you get to a point where you just keep repeating and you're not getting any different results. So sometimes you've got to look in and go, okay, where is my weakest link right now? What needs to be addressed? And that comes down, again, to priorities. But sometimes you will never, ever understand, and people look for, I did a little thing about it, it's like shiny object syndrome. they look external and look for all these pretty gadgets, things to, bring all the magic to them. But really, it's looking internal and just fixing one little component, and it will just change everything.
Oh man, it's always one tiny little component. My mentor taught me this thing. He's like, well, the best way to do what you're doing and to see things is, he's like, use this analogy. What does a Bunnings do? Because you want to be a Bunnings. So I'll ask you the question because it's such a little metaphor, but I'll run you through it. When you go to Bunnings, what's the experience like?
Wow.
There's a lot of shit in here.
It's like,
but when you know there's one thing you need, tell us about like the last time. Yeah, exactly right. So what do?
I shop, I look everywhere.
Yep.
And the next thing you know, I'm walking out with 5 things I didn't need.
Well, more specifically, when you go to Bunnings, there's one person who's standing in the middle, right?
Yeah.
Who's the first person you go talk to?
The chick in the red.
Yeah, right.
Or the guy.
Or the guy, right? Yeah. And then what do you ask them?
Well, typically it's like, they ask you, how you going? I'm like, I'm well, how are you? What aisle is this?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And then you go to that aisle.
Yeah.
And then what do?
Walk back and forth until I can find it out of the 5 layers of the pallet racking.
Yeah, and then when you find it, what do?
Just keep looking, browsing, pick up my item.
Yep. And then you pay for it and leave.
Yep.
So it's actually pretty easy. They've got like 150,000 items or something in Bunnings.
That's chaotic.
Something stupid. 110, 150,000. You just going in there for one thing. The quickest way you did is you walk to someone and you ask them. And then they got there. So that's what you want to be, or you want to be for others. Is it's like you only need that one thing. Like if one of the biggest problems in your house is something you didn't silicon, you're just going to go ask for silicon to stick it together.
Yeah, you don't want to be walking up.
You don't want to be.
How many aisles? Like 25 aisles trying to find silicon? You don't give a shit about the toilet section. You don't care about the pool section or the gardening section. I don't want to look at any of that because it's overwhelming. Yeah. I'll just get the silicon and get the hell out of here. Yeah, I just want one thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. Just one thing and I'm done.
Yeah.
So that's what we want to be. It's the same thing within you. It's like, well, anytime lost, stuck, whatever it is, same thing with shiny object syndrome, as you mentioned with the inwards thing. It's like, cool. Now, one of the most beautiful things that I love in the modern world is like, just with like AI now, because I like talking about this, because I'm so resistant to use it, but I'm using it as a tool, but being careful. Because AI I know can disrupt original thinking.
Correct.
Right? And original thinking is the most unique thing that we have in the world right now.
Yeah.
And the independent thinkers is the best skill that you can have. So you can use it, but just be mindful. Yeah. Right? And, that was a really good point that I wanted to use with this. Yeah, in terms of like self-awareness, understanding yourself and being the Bunnings and asking the right questions specifically for you so that you can figure out whatever it is, and so shiny object syndrome or whatever it is it's just your ability to think. It's the ability to think independently and know exactly, where you need to go, and just understand that one little thing is going to make the big shift always. Yeah,
and then like in Bunnings, you also mentioned about, that one person acting like a guy.
That's what I wanted to say, that one person. So yeah, in a world with AI, right, we go in and we can figure it out whatever we need and get there. Can over a period of time ruin original thinking. So it's just one thing to be mindful of. However, what we can do for feedback, which is so lost, is just message a person instead. It's like all this stuff that we've got creating in like the digital world. It's just sort of, even though we can get things automatically, we can do these things, we can post content. It's just like preventing us from actually talking to someone, like on text, on voice note, on the phone, in person, on a Zoom call. Yeah. It's all just making it so easy and connect us so much together without actually being present with each other.
Disconnected us.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's handy and it's useful and it's like great for when you don't want to, but if it's creating a wave and a dissonance, removing you from people, then that's preventing you from that relations part, that methodology that I was talking about. So anytime I need anything, sometimes, let's say, because I run ads, Facebook ads, right? So sometimes with my friends, I'm like, I cannot be bothered writing this damn Facebook ads or whatever it is. I'll just call some of my friends or people that have been in my community. I'm like, hey, what's some of the things you've struggled with or whatever it is? I'm writing some stuff out. Would you like to help me? Absolutely love to help them. Thank you. If they got time. And then we just walk through and we bond, we chat. They help us out. I help them out. And then we create some things. It could be about myself. I'm talking to someone. There's this cooking recipe. Who do I know is like really good at cooking? I ring it up and ask them. Or it could be a business idea or a business something like, I don't really know this person really well, but I know that they've achieved what I want to achieve. Maybe I should just ring them up and ask them if I can call them if they've got any time. tell them about my goals. Yes, like I'd prioritize that over AI all day.
Yeah. And just touch on that, like typically people that are doing well or like entrepreneurs or, you know, leaders, they do not hesitate to share. Like, you know, like, oh yeah, they're putting content out for free all the time because what they do, like I know for myself, is like if someone comes to me and goes, hey, I'm not going to start a business, you know, can I get your feedback? Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know,
It's fun because you get to like use your skills that you've worked hard for and learn from other people.
I call myself like a little counselor. Like, you know, they come to me and they're like, oh, I'm having a problem with this boy or this girl. And I'm like, okay, what's happening? Let's break it down. Here you go. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't mind helping people out. And that's part of my job. But it's just like people, you know, of our nature or who are entrepreneurs, they will help you get there much quicker because they've done the path.
Yeah, and they understand it. Like if anyone's going to get it, it's them. And that's one thing that you can sort of like, you can ask for or pay for is space. I mean, I'm like, so in terms of connection and stuff, there are so many people, if they're like a really good listener, could really just help someone. It's just for space. And we need more space. Yeah. And we fill it up with way too much shit. I like actually using this as an analogy of like an oak tree. Just like we want our lives, it's like we start off as an acorn, we want our lives to grow into this big grand oak tree, right? But our environment and our situation, everything around us sort of acts like a pot. And wherever we're at in our lives, it's like we want to grow in this big oak tree, but we start in this little pot and there's the dirt in there and you've got the oak tree and it grows out and expands and it fills the pot. And then that's our comfort zone, whatever that is. Whether it be a cooking comfort zone, a money comfort zone, a business comfort zone, a relationship comfort zone, a health comfort zone. And what we need to like do to evolve is to get a bigger pot. How do we do that? Well, we've got to create space. And we create space with, it's just time for yourself. There's so many people that like I'll work with and stuff who are like, okay, cool. Well, I freed up time for myself as a business and a leader. And I immediately decided to do this thing and this thing to free up, like to spend my time because I need to be doing something. As you mentioned with shiny object syndrome, there's like 4 or 5 different things. Yeah. It's like, well, the most uncomfortable thing for you to do is to be a little bit bored during the week. And if you read a book like Deep Work by Cal Newport, you understand that being bored is the best time for you to come up with ideas. It's like, well, when people come up with ideas, it's like majority is in the shower because they're not on their phones, they're not doing anything. And they're like, oh my God, there's this thing. Right. So what happens is the most common thing. So create that for yourself. Like Jeff Bezos is great. He says like he makes one decision every month. That's it for his job now. One decision a month. He spends all his time thinking, analyzing how he feels about things. One decision a month. So creating a bigger pot for yourself looks like time, rest, leaning into thinking, not feeling guilty for those things. I'm over there. I was like pointing at you, bro. So creating a bigger pot for yourself is like creating space so that when you found out what you most want to do, you can grow into a bigger oak tree. When you get clear on that, like that's the opportunity. 1,000 no's for a few sacred yeses. That's the goal. Then you're in a bigger pot. And then you live that out as best as you can. I've grown in. I've filled it out now. Wicked.
Unreal.
Let's get to a bigger pot. More space.
And that's what we want for everyone that's listening here for their new year, 2023. Time to grow out into a bigger environment.
Yeah. And you can get space by like asking someone like you for something as well. Because that's like an hour, you know, maybe out of your time with something and you're passionate about it to help someone. You've just given someone space for growth. You can pay for space.
Or we do it for free here.
Or you do it for free here. Yeah.
That's it.
Exactly. Right. I was just saying, just giving all the people different options. You can go to events. You can travel for space. Yeah. You can book in something. It's like getting out of whatever the norm is for you that's like uncomfortable, letting that sink in for a while and
just be a bit more open-minded to what is out there.
Yeah. Well, just, you know, when you do understand your vision and your purpose, it's like, okay, well, then there comes the intuition part of it. That's like, what feels right? Because in terms of your brain as well, you don't make decisions on just rational and logical thinking, this part of your brain. You're not making decisions just on that. Because you can go, this thing makes complete sense. It's going to be the best thing for me. I'm going to get to my goals quicker. It's going to save me time, but I'm not going to do it. Otherwise, there's no emotional component. There's no intuition. It's like, yeah, when you meet someone that you like, if everyone has ever fallen in love, you know what it's like. You meet that person and you're just like, this is it. And this is the best decision at the time. This is the best decision.
The lust phase.
Yeah, right. Well, there's also like sometimes there's like a bit of love in there. Like some people can fall in love like real quickly, especially if you know it's like, oh, there's going to be the one. And a lot of people who do have found the one have had that experience. They're like, yep, this is the one, keen as. And then they go through and it's the damn one. And it's a very common experience. But something felt right about it. Same thing most in business decisions. You're like, oh, this one feels so right. This is the best decision for me. Or, oh, this thing here feels so right. If someone's stressed out right now and you're listening to this and you're like, oh, I just don't know what feels right. It's like space will give you that answer. Space, and then space and some inward work on yourself. So I'm just passionate about that. I thought it was a really cool tip.
No, it's good. I think a lot of people need to take a bit of time out into the new year, just remove those distractions, look at the bigger environment for themselves to grow into, and like you said, create that space, and now to take on all the information you provided them with, obviously the goal setting, and
right.
Hopefully everyone's taken something away from this podcast today, and
absolutely,
they can have a massive Q1 for 2023.
Create space for yourself, get clear on your goals, crush your goals. Set space for yourself, get clear on your goals, crush your goals. Set space for yourself, get clear on your goals, crush your goals. That's essentially like the winning method there. And I'm going to be doing it this year and see how hard I can go. So
just repeat that one more time for everyone.
All right. You ready, guys? Space, set goals, crush goals. There we go.
There's your formula, guys. So I'd like to thank Corey for jumping on with us today.
Thank you,
obviously taking your time out. I'm sure the users would love to hear it. And obviously, guys that are listening, obviously on YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud, and also make sure you jump on and follow Corey and ourselves on Instagram and Facebook as well.
Yeah, for sure. If anyone is listening and they do want to find me, like Corey Boutwell on Instagram, CoreyBoutwell. I have 2 YouTube channels. One's Corey Boutwell Podcast. One is Corey Boutwell. And my website is getstartedwithcorey.com. And if you're looking for my podcast, you just type in Corey Boutwell Podcast anywhere. So thanks so much for having me on, man.
Perfect. Anytime, guys. And obviously, if you're driving or can't write this down, we'll put this all in the descriptions in all of those platforms.
Thank you, bro.
Thank you.